of them will contain this. I think also the Beyond Burger, for example, contain methylcellulose, and it's a very useful ingredient because it binds things together. So it's replacing egg whites, for example, in the vegan version. But I think the consumer is asking for more, for less ingredients, more or less.
That's funny. So you're trying to get rid of a useful ingredient because it's got a terrible name.
Something like that.
I was having a conversation yesterday about duckweed, and the principle, and one of the benefits this person was saying was that it had similar binding and gelling properties to egg whites. Is that something that you have looked into?
Yes, but duckweed actually, the main protein in duckweed is rubisco. It's actually in the past, when I was working for NISO, we wrote a patent on it. So it has indeed very good gelling properties. And there is also a small company in the Netherlands, which is, it's not a small company actually, which is called Kozen, which is going to launch also a protein extract from their sugar beet leaves. Which is also with the aim to replace egg white in application.
Okay.
Because it has very high gelling properties. So yes, it has high potential. But as I said, from duckweed or from any leaves, I think the challenge is to make the process economically wealthy, in the sense that if you want a pure ingredient, you have to refine so much that sometimes it's only a small percentage of the protein that you are getting. So you have to make use of the rest.
Right.
So there is still ongoing research as well, like Bahrain and Ghana, to see if we could improve the processing to increase the percentage of protein that you are getting out, and also if we can make it slightly less refined to be able to, but still having the same properties, to make it more economically interesting as well.
Sure, that makes sense.
Yeah. And duckweed is a very nice source of protein. It contains a lot of protein, but it's very green.
It's very green. That is a problem.
Yeah.
So do you imagine, I remember this industry reminds me of the organic industry many, many years ago, when it was still a lot of small companies and innovation happening, and then a lot of big brands acquired many of the small firms and because they saw the potential. Do you think that that's about to happen in plant-based proteins, that the big firms are going to come and acquire all these little innovative startups?
In a couple of years, yes, I would expect so. Maybe not right now, because I think there is still a lot of really startup companies which are too small yet. It's only an idea. But I think, yes, it will happen. And you see it, you see it quite, in some areas like the plant-based meat, you see it arriving quite quickly. It's not necessarily acquiring directly, but to form partnership between a startup and a larger company. I think you see it happening already, but it will increase. Yes,
okay.
For sure.
And do you think that's good for the industry, or will it slow maybe some of the innovation?
It's always a little bit. I think in general, startup companies move faster in the sense that their chain of decision making is much shorter than in larger companies. So I think quite often the large companies are not always as innovative as the small ones. They are more sometimes following the trend because thing because it takes so much time to take decisions.
Right.
It can be detrimental to the speed of innovation. But on the other hand, I think some of the big players are also spending, outsourcing a lot of research to also speed up some of their innovation. So I think it's also so demanded topic right now that I think also the large company will try to move quite fast as well.
Right. It always seems like if the large company can acquire the small company, give them resources, but leave them alone, right? That always strikes me as the best model.
Yes. But unfortunately, I think it's always difficult to do so. What I like about small companies sometimes is that they are more freely sharing things. Larger company is much more difficult sometimes to get information of what they know already on the topic and what they want to share. And also on IP, it's much more difficult. So to have larger company in consortium projects, it's sometimes a challenge because of IP reasons.
Are you concerned that large companies? You mentioned earlier that an organization had a patent on a specific protein. Will the large companies try to control the use of certain crops, and will that affect innovation or the growth of the industry?
I think the patent I was talking about actually was with Niso, so my former employer, and I think we withdrew this. I think it was withdrawn, I think. But what we, in general, because we are, of course, also writing patents at Wageningen University and research, I think it's also what the agricultural ministry, at least the Ministry of Agriculture, also demands from Wageningen University is also that we have a lot of startups, but also a lot of IP generated out of our research. And I think what we try to do in general is that we are, of course, we are also aiming at licensing this IP because you also want to benefit from it. But we are trying to license it in such a way that it's also not blocking everybody else to use it. So we are trying to do it in a smart way.
Okay, that makes sense. And do you ever think, so much of this space is about mimicking meat, right? That's always the goal, to make it taste like a burger or a steak. Do you ever see a point at which plant-based proteins will just be their own food category and stop trying to mimic another food category?
Yeah. It's a debate I have with a lot of my colleagues on a regular basis. I think because, and I'm talking about Europe, but I would expect in the US it's the same. But if we look about in Europe, in Western Europe, we are meat eater, or at least animal. We have an animal-based diet in general. So if you want to change the perception of people or to bring them to eat plant-based food, what we are believing is that the first step is to make them used to it, to the taste, and aroma of plant-based food, with a product which resembles something they are used to. And there we are really, the target is really the flexitarian, so the people who are meat eater but are willing to change their diet towards more plant-based food. And it's the large majority of people. So we believe that the first step is really to mimic something that they are used to. But what I hope is that the next step would be to actually create something which is completely different, but